Hey guys, trade alert time. Pierre-Luc Dubois is out of the Winnipeg Jets and he is off to the Los Angeles Kings. Yep, you heard it here. He's finally out of Winnipeg. He wanted out and he got his wish and he's off to the LA Kings. In return, the Winnipeg Jets have acquired Gabriel Vilardi, Iafallo, Rasmus Kupari, and a 2024 second round pick that did originally belong to Montreal. Now, prior to this trade commencing, Pierre-Luc Dubois signed a 8-year, $8.5 million contract and was then shipped in the trade. Hence, obviously, such a good return on LA Kings front. And also so the Kings could get that additional year rather than signing him to only the 7. So yeah, I mean, ultimately the Kings bolster their center depth, especially with Andy Kopitar sort of getting on a little bit. I mean, he's still playing some absolute phenomenal hockey, so I doubt we're going to see him out of here anytime soon. But he is in the last year of his contract next year. He is coming on 36, so bringing in someone like Pierre-Luc Dubois is a really big pickup alongside Philip Deneau, and I think they got Blake Lizotte. So their center depth at the moment is pretty good. They also didn't give up a Quinton Byfield like a lot of people thought may have been going the other way. However, it's a pretty good return from Winnipeg's perspective, getting the 23-year-old Velarde, who, yep, they need to sign and they need to get that deal done, but a really good young player showing a lot with the Kings, especially the season just gone. Alex Iafallo, who's only got the 1 year left on that contract, I believe, but he's a very solid player as well at a pretty reasonable cap here of only $4 million. Kupari, the signing rights, hasn't really hit his strides yet, but played a handful of games. Actually, I think he played a reasonable amount of games. I think he almost played 60 games this season. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be off a little bit on
You're
that,
talking
but
about Kapari, was it?
yeah, I think he
Yeah,
I think he played
yeah. No, he
60
played
games or something,
66
right?
games and he played 6 playoff games. No points in the playoff games, by the way.
No, but he is another young, probably
Mm,
not, a big star, but he's another young NHL player in return that is most likely going to be serviceable.
mm.
And who knows what his ceiling could be, plus that second round pick. So
And
yeah,
just
look,
on Iafallo's front, he's this year and next year. He's got 2 years.
he does have the 2 years. Oh, there you go, even better. So I thought it was even if it was just the 1 year, I thought at $4 million, Follows, extremely serviceable player, and at $4 million cap here, that's pretty good for them. But if they've got him for 2 years, um, oh yeah, no, I forgot the cap friendlies updated and no longer showing this season's contracts. So that's my bad on that one. But yeah, look, I like this trade for the Los Angeles Kings. I think the return is fantastic for that young side that they are trying to build. I think it just bolsters their playoff hopes. I know they sorry, I mean Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg's trying to stay strong. Um, and I think, yeah, those three players that they picked up are going to be extremely helpful in, getting them and holding them where they were. I know they fell off a little bit this season and, almost fell out of playoff contentions for a little bit. But I think this strengthens their side, absolutely.
Mm.
And on the other end, I think Pierre-Luc Dubois for the LA Kings, he's a phenomenal player. I know there's been a lot of issues with him, but I still think the LA Kings could get a really good 8 years from him. I know there's questions on whether he can be that true first line center, but I can still see him putting up at least 70 to 80 points a year with the Kings.
Yeah. Yeah, my points on this trade, like Dubois is like basically a second line center. That's what he got. He'll be behind Kopitar. So what what Jets get in return? They're obviously not doing a rebuild. Because they didn't get any real big picks back. They get Vilardi, Iafallo Vilardi, who is a next first rounder, though it was 2018, 5 years ago. And then you got the second round from Montreal, and I'm pretty sure that Montreal pick went around the business. But yeah, look, Iafallo 4 million. He's essentially a third line, so it is a little expensive for a third line winger at 4 million. But Velarde, Kupari, great. You are relying a bit on Velarde to repeat what he did this year, and you're just hoping that Kupari can, being an ex first rounder, can step into his own. And what they also do is get 4.5 million back in cap, so they can sort out other things. Kings side, they get a second line center in Dubois. I'm not very high on him just for how he's handled other things. I know he was in teams he didn't really be in, Columbus when they were bad. Then you go to the Jets, and then locker room cancer up there. So I understand the choices he's made to get out of those situations, but I think 8.5 mil over 8 years is a bit much for me. I understand cap going up and whatnot, but you're relying a lot on that, and we've seen from what happened during dead cap era, that when that doesn't go up, then contracts like this get real bad real quick. So I'm not high on it. I think Jets win this. Kings do get the best player out of the trade, so they do have that going. But generally speaking, when you have essentially um, like three NHL players getting traded for one, generally like the team that gets the multiple NHL players ends up better off. It's very rare that the one does better because they've got to carry all that weight. So they get depth, they make save some cap space. I'm not sure if it's the right way to go about it and not going for that rebuild instead, because I do think they've got a lot to move. Obviously, like Wheeler's got another year and whatnot as well, so you've got all that to worry about. You do have Kyle Connor in his prime essentially at 7 mil for 3 years. You got Shifley for one more year. So, and that's if they don't move these contracts. So all in all, I think Jets win. Um, I don't like the 8.5 for Dubois for a second line center that hasn't hit point per game yet. Um, so yeah, my favor in Jets, though I don't like that they're not going rebuild side, they're doing retool side.
Look, oh, I think this is coming from. So I don't mind. I get where you're coming from by saying, oh, it's not a full rebuild situation, but I kind of like what's happening here because I think this is for Winnipeg. This is them going, okay, well, we were pretty good this season. We fell away late, had some issues. Can we retool and look to go again when Wheeler's in his last year, Shifley's in his last year, um, stuff like that. So they're gonna be losing some pretty good players unless they decide to re-sign. Wheeler's getting on. Um, I think the question they're saying right now is, okay, we're pretty close to needing a rebuild if this doesn't work, but do we really want to lose Kyle Connor and Ehlers and Morrissey and stuff like that? Because those players probably aren't going to want to stay around for a rebuild. So I feel like they've picked up Velarde, who's 23 years old. He's, 40 odd points in 60 odd games last year. Pretty serviceable player. Um, Iafallo, I get it, I get your third line, but he's a pretty consistent third line, man. Like, I know 4 mil looks like a lot, but for a player who's scoring 14 to 17 goals every single season for the last 5 seasons, you basically guaranteed at least 15 goals from him, and he's $4 million. $4 million. So it's not breaking the bank, and it's guaranteed pretty much a 15-goal season. Um, yeah, so Velarde, 41 points, 23 goals. He's only 23. I feel like what they've gone for here is, at the end of the day, if this year doesn't work for them, they can, say they're not really in a position where they look like they're going to contend for the cup. They can go, well, Blake Wheeler, we'll send you off to a cup contender. Shifley, if you're not going to sign, we'll send you off to a cup contender. And then they will look at like all the other UFAs they've got, ship them off, get as many pieces as they can, make the decision and go, okay, well, we're going to rip this apart, but we've still got, you know, Vilardi, who's 23. If they can fast track this rebuild by having a bunch of younger players, because they were getting a bit older, but with this trade, I know Dubois wasn't that old, 25, but they bring in two 23-year-olds, a 29-year-old, and a second round pick. Iafallo, if it doesn't work out, they can trade him at the deadline this year, and he's still got a year left on his contract. So, they can flip him for assets as well, especially if he's putting up 15 to 20 goals or on that pace. Oh, I just feel like this is a really good trade for them to just go, let's have one last crack at it. If this doesn't work and we're not in a position to contend, then we can make a call on a rebuild. But we've still picked up pieces that will help us in this rebuild if we do go down that path, but also pieces that could help us immediately.
Yeah. Well, the Jets' average age is around 28. So they are on the older side. Obviously, Wheeler being 36. You got Shifley and all that being 30. Nita Ryder, someone they brought in at 30. So they got age. There's not many real big youngsters coming up to replace them. I know they get a couple here, but it's just one of those
I mean,
things
they've got
where
Perfetti coming through. They've got Brad Lambert,
hmm,
who's, reported to be pretty
well,
reasonable.
I just think
Um,
you're probably going to lose your starting goalie, your franchise goalie in Hellebuck.
mhm.
I just don't think this was the right move. I feel like you sacrifice a year or two, just offload these assets if you could. If people are willing to take the contracts, you eat some salary cap, you get the picks and prospects, and you rebuild for 2 years time. That's what I would have looked at doing. They've obviously gone a different route because they made the playoffs, so it's that thing. We made the playoffs, so we can do it again and we can go harder. Um, but yeah, that's just my little gripe with that one. Kings, uh, I don't know if you could say they get stronger with this trade. They were pretty strong last season, and I don't know if they. I feel like this is like, oh, they've gotten stronger because their salary cap situation is, yeah, a little bit rough in a sense. I think a lot of teams are though, but yeah, I don't know if this is the right move for the Kings long term, but we'll have to wait and see if they have anything else
I
in the works.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, they've got, what are you talking, $4.5 million left to literally sign, because they've currently only got 11 forwards, 4 defensemen, and a goalie. So they need another 7 players, basically, with $4 million, $4.5 million. So you're gonna probably see a couple other movements before the season commences anyway. They'll probably need to move one of those bigger contracts, whether it be a Gavrikov or an Hutchinson. That gives them a bit of cap to sort of get some bottom six sort of players. Um, and but
Yeah,
yeah,
like I
like
get I
so
get it.
they'll
He
have to move
replaces
that.
Kopitar after this year, because his last Kopitar's last year unless he signs again. But being aging, he might not be first line at that point. So I get it that they're expecting Dubois to be their first line center going forward, and that he hopefully develops into that role. And now that he's got stability and contract wise, but yeah,
And
no,
he
and
could
yeah, and they do have
he
other
could.
long term contracts in the same age gap like Kevin Fiala as well. So they're kind of setting up for the next four or so years in regards to contracts going for the cup.
Yeah, it's just going to be, can they get themselves a goaltender? Can a couple of their youngsters make the step up? I know they've got Brant Clark, which they're quite hopeful on. And then yeah, the big question for them is going to be, yeah, can they get themselves a goaltender that's going to be serviceable? Is Phoenix Copley going to be able to do that? Are they just going to need a backup for him? I'm thinking they're going to need someone better if they're going to want to go deep. And then, yeah, they're going to need to make a couple more moves just to strengthen them, because otherwise, I just don't quite think that they're going to be around the mark next year. Especially losing um, Vilardi and Iafallo. Essentially they're giving up a good 40 goals just on that. And
Well, it's the
yeah,
middle
look,
middle part of their team that they've given up there that they've got to replace.
exactly, and they don't really have the cap space to do it now. I understand why they went for it and why they've done it, and they're definitely hoping that um, Dubois can continue to grow and go from being that just shy of 30 goal scorer to being a 30-40 goal scorer, a point per game plus. Um, but it's yet to be seen. Um, and also he's got to sort of finally meld and be happy with a team that he's on. Maybe that's the difference, maybe finally going somewhere he wants to be uh, might actually encourage him to get his head right and to start playing the hockey that a lot of people think he's capable of.
Mm.
Um,
It's either that or
so
he's just a
yeah,
big baby, and you'll always find something to whinge about, and it's not his fault; it's someone else's fault. Um,
yeah, and it's never going to get better.
yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much me summed up there. You got anything else to say?
No, I think yeah, I'm probably with you. I think the Kings probably lose out on this trade, get what they sort of need in a sense, but I definitely think the Winnipeg Jets win the trade overall. But again, like you stated, there is some questions around whether they should have gone for the full rebuild. Um, but other than that, I think yeah, it's finally done. Everyone was wondering what would happen, where he was going to go. Um, yeah, there was a few rumors, going around where he was actually headed, but LA Kings is his final landing spot.
Alrighty, guys. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content, and leave a comment down below what you think of this trade. What do you think are our opinions of the trade? Who won the trade? Was it LA? Was it the Jets? Is Dubois overpaid? And is this the right direction for the Jets and the Kings? And yeah, we'll get back to your comments. But until the next video, we'll catch you guys.
Okay, guys.